Hello everybody, and welcome to today's tutorial. So today we're going to be looking at fill and how it can be used on surfaces and solids to simplify the geometry that's there. So in our first example we see a loop of edges that extends too far. So I can select on the edges I don't want, and when I hit fill, it fills them in and gets rid of them, so now we have a straight edge there. And in a similar way I'll select on these edges and fill them in, and watch as it fills that gap in the surface. I could also select on the top loop of edges and fill it in to cap this surface and turn it from a surface into a solid. So our next example we have two surfaces, and I want to fill in these edges and simplify it. And notice that I can simplify it across two surfaces. When I fill them in we get two straight lines instead of those serrated edges. In our third example, notice we have a box and a cylinder, but they're both surfaces, so by selecting on these two edges, I can hit fill, and it basically extends them in both directions to create a solid where the surfaces used to be. Now let's move on to our next example. And this is similar to our first, where I can select on a loop of edges and fill it in to cap a surface. So now that we have a solid, I can even select on this surface here and hit fill to simplify that off as well, to get one continuous surface. So in our next example, looks like we have a solid with a surface missing. And notice there's three rounds that will intersect in that area. So even if we select on these edges here and hit fill, it simplifies it and fills it in and caps that surface while extending those rounds in together to create a solid where a surface used to be. Now with these two examples we see a spline region, and if I select on the edge and hit fill, it basically extends that spline out to get your maximum XY directions, and you have one rectangular surface. And the same can be said for the surface to the right of it, with a series of lines and arcs. So now let's move on to our solid, which is where I use fill the most. So when I have a solid, I can select on a surface and fill it in to basically get rid of it and extend the regions. Now with a depression, like this hole, I can fill it in with the related geometry around it, as well as rounds. So now moving on to the front of the model, if I select these two surfaces, it'll basically fill them in by extending our top surface and the angled surface. And notice the round on the side doesn't get in its way either. And if I don't want that, I can fill that in as well. So now on this blind hole, maybe I'll box select the whole thing to fill it in. And moving on to this protrusion. Notice if I fill in the front surface, the one to the left and the right extend, or if I grab the entire thing and fill it in, I can get rid of that whole protrusion. So I hope you've seen how fill can be used to simplify your geometry as well as surfaces to help you model. Thank you for watching.